50-year-old Zdravka Jovanovski spent most of today telling Newcastle District Court through a Macedonian interpreter what she's gone through since July 1988. She was at home on her own when armed police forced open the front door. She first thought the men were burglars. It was only when she saw a police badge on an officer who pointed a rifle at her that she realised they were police. The officers falsely believed notorious escapee Raymond Denning was in the house. Mrs. Jovanovski claims she's been nervous and anxious ever since. Mrs. Jovanovski says that since 1988 she's so frightened by police that every time she sees an officer she shakes and falls to the ground. Under cross-examination by police barrister Simon Harben, she denied that she was exaggerating her condition or how much medication she took. Her treating psychiatrist says she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Mrs. Jovanovski is suing police for damages, claiming they had no right to force their way into her home or point a rifle at her.
Well, we've had a report initially to a bush alight here in Woods Road. That was followed up fairly shortly with a call to a house alight. We responded units from YE, Warnervale, the New South Wales Fire Brigade dispatched units from Morisset and Budgewoi.
At Newcastle's #1 sports ground, day 2 of the Hunter Region Secondary Schools Athletics Carnival, finals of both track and field. Quick to impress in the under-15s boys triple jump, Irrawang High School's Lee Cody, a leap of 12.35 metres, enough for gold. The under-17s 1500 metres was run well outside record time, but the efforts were nothing short of outstanding. Glendale High's Heath Timmins holding off a gutsy finish from Alan Sharkey from Wallsend. Big cheers were reserved for the afternoon finals of the 100 metre sprints. The 13 years girls Maitland's Carly Eleanor was first to greet the judges in a time of 13:06. After 2 days of competition, the West Lake Zone finished on top. The next challenge for the region's elite athletes, the New South Wales Combined Schools Championships in early September. In basketball, Newcastle High School is through to the semis of the Shell Cup, beating Grafton High in this morning's quarter-finals at Broadmeadow. The locals started well thanks to pinpoint accuracy from outside the three-point line. They held on to score a commanding victory 70-49. The semi-finals will be played in Wollongong next month. And making it a good double for young Hunter basketballers, the Open Boys team from Warners Bay High School. This afternoon they met Oxley in the quarter-finals of the Combined High Schools Championships in Tamworth. A 76-52 victory made the trip west worthwhile. The side is now through to the competition semis. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Okay.
The Newcastle Rugby League met this afternoon to jot out the points of the proposed changes. Under the plan, third grade will be abolished next year, while new divisions will be formed in the under-17s and under-19s.
Down the track, this will certainly improve the standard of play, and especially for some of those lower clubs.
The clubs are expected to pass the motion at a special general meeting tonight. 6 Newcastle University students have been presented with $1,000 sporting scholarships. Bryn Dannett was honoured for fencing, sisters Alison and Lisa Daly for their success in hockey, while netballer Danielle Harvey was given her scholarship for netball. The awards are presented annually. In tennis, success for 14-year-old Gosford girl Melissa Dowles. Playing for Australia in a tournament in the Netherlands, Dowles finished third in the singles event with a straight sets victory. She then teamed up with a doubles partner to win the competition final.
Pasminco says it realises the community hasn't had a positive image of its Bullaroo smelter, and it's time something was done.
It's a hand-in-glove type thing where we know we must improve, we know that the community wants us to improve, and we know we've got to set goals and reach those goals.
Company initiatives include a community awareness campaign through television commercials and assisting Year 11 students at Lake Macquarie High School. The business class students visited the smelter for the first time today. They'll then receive lectures over several weeks from the company's experts on various aspects of big business.
We'll be looking at various aspects of Pasminco's business, pricing, stock control, raw materials, particularly government regulations was one, human resource planning.
According to Pasminco, it's an arrangement beneficial to both. The company improves its image as a caring community member. The students learn from the horse's mouth how manufacturing works in Newcastle.
It's a frightening fact. 80% of inmates are in jail either on drug-related offences or were affected by drugs at the time of their crimes. Inside these walls, contraband is a real problem. People visiting jails bringing drugs into the system.
We won't tolerate drugs coming into the institution, and if you're caught, then prepared to suffer the consequences.
A prison task force, STED, has been making random raids on visiting days. At the Cessnock medium security jail, they've been catching people out. In the last 5 months, 9 people have been charged with trying to take drugs inside the Cessnock Correctional Centre. They've been caught with heroin, amphetamines and cannabis.
People try to smuggle it in on their person, and they bring it in property. They also try to mail it in mail. There's various ways of trying to get drugs into the system.
Northern Region Commander Ken Middlebrook says it's not that the drug problem is getting worse, the system is just getting better at catching the cheats. Food parcels were once a common way of getting drugs in. At Cessnock, that's now been banned. Corrective Services also runs a program to get prisoners off their addictions. One concern across the state is that prison standover men are threatening new prison inmates to get their friends and family to bring in drugs. The Prison Officers Union says drugs are still consistently coming into jails. John Doyle from the union says the people that are being caught are just the tip of the iceberg. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
It's all about kids helping kids. And for students of the 59 Catholic primary and secondary schools who poured into Hamilton's Sacred Heart Cathedral this morning, the occasion couldn't have been grander. They were here to celebrate their contribution to missions, their support for projects which care for needy children throughout the world.
It makes them very much aware of the poverty and injustice that goes on in the world. It makes them very much aware that they can help and they can give hope to a lot of people.
With Bishop Malone presiding, the children expressed themselves through readings, music and song. With the theme Our Global Family, it was an opportunity to reinforce some important messages.
It means that we're just not an isolated little island. We're part of the global family, and we want to be able to help people who are less fortunate than ourselves.
This year, students from around the diocese are expected to contribute more than $45,000 to health, literacy and housing programs. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Norma Lawler lives rugby league since the early 1960s. She has been involved in numerous administrative roles with clubs across the Hunter, most recently with Maitland. Last night at a special general meeting of the NRL, Norma was honoured with life membership. She received the news this morning.
Excitement, pride, enjoyment, amazement, because it's a great honour to be selected by your peers as a life member of Newcastle Rugby League.
A pumpkin picker through and through, Norma is the first woman to achieve the feat. With son Frank in first grade at West, the big test of her loyalties may come this weekend when her two favourite sides clash in Maitland. And will the home side triumph?
We've had a disappointing year this year, but let's hope next year. I hope so.
More than 4,000 people have been admitted to Hunter hospitals for heart disease and stroke-related conditions in the past 12 months. Half have agreed to participate in the new Heart and Stroke Register. An initiative of Newcastle University and Hunter Health, it's designed to find out what problems patients face once they're discharged.
What are the facilities they get when they come out of hospital? Do they have all the help they need? Do they have any special problems that we can help them with? Do they know about all the things that are there to help them?
By analysing the long-term changes in health and quality of life, researchers hope the register will improve services for patients who suddenly find themselves having to cope on their own.
But you'll be able to look back in 10 years and say, yes, things have improved. I got better treatment now than my mother did 20 years ago.
And with the demand for treatment of sleep disorders doubling in the Hunter over the last year, the John Hunter Hospital has joined forces with the Warners Bay Private to establish more sleep therapies. It's hoped the partnership will minimise waiting time for patients.
A few weeks ago, an excited and apprehensive Natalie Ward was doing some last-minute packing before her trip to Atlanta. Now she is the proud holder of a bronze medal, the Australian team having put in a great performance to claim third place behind China and America, who are yet to fight it out for the gold. Coach of the Hunter representative softball team, Alan Moore, says Natalie played an important role in the team's success.
She's been playing really well, had some very good hits and made some excellent outs in the field.
He says the introduction of softball as an Olympic sport has also helped boost the sport's image.
We've even had people ringing up wanting to know when softball starts for the season out here, and I think that's all been generated because of the success of the Olympic team.
When she returns home, Natalie will rejoin the local representative side, playing in the State League competition. Emma Theossian, NBN News.
The idea for the markets on the site of a former textiles factory in Park Avenue was first floated more than 2 years ago. It was quashed when it was thought such a venture would be harmful to local businesses. But last night, Newcastle Council voted to permit the markets by approving an amendment to the local environment plan, providing the owner of the land also proceeds with refurbishment work to the old store site in Hunter Street. The decision was met with anger from close to 200 concerned residents and retailers. They had waited more than 2 hours for the council meeting to get underway, cheering and heckling when the councillors finally broke out of their private meeting and entered the council chamber. The plan still needs ministerial approval. Some have already threatened legal action if the markets go ahead, vowing to make their concerns known to the minister. And Councillor Morgan Jones fears the council will be in for trouble in the future, saying the council hasn't gone through the proper decision-making process.
I think there may be a problem with the process. There is opinion out in the marketplace, 2 differing opinions at least, that we may not have followed due process. That means, unfortunately, that any subsequent DA can be challenged.
The Transit Authority has offered a pay increase if the workers agree to an extended working week and other trade-offs in some work arrangements. But the Australian Services Union says that's not good enough. It's given the authority a week to come back with a better proposal, threatening further industrial action if a satisfactory agreement isn't reached. Meanwhile, clerical and administrative staff at the Cardiff Ingham's Chicken plant continued their strike over a $25 pay increase, rejecting management's offer of a $20 rise. Picketers refused to allow production workers to cross the line, eventually allowing some to leave the plant. The dispute went back before the Industrial Commission late this afternoon, with a decision expected tomorrow. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
"12 months ago, Clean Up Australia's Ian Kiernan joined Lake Macquarie Council and the community to develop a plan to repair Lake Macquarie.
Obviously here with the lake you've got a magnificent asset, but it's under certain and quite stringent, severe environmental stress, and it's obvious that the council and the community want to do what they can to fix it.
Now the Lake Macquarie Environmental Management Plan is completed, a blueprint to protect and manage the local environment.
It's a very practical plan, and given the community support that's here, given the fact that you've got a strong community here and an absolutely wonderful lake that is under severe stress, I know that some real progress is going to be made from this.
There's no set budget and no specific projects yet. Council says it's relying on the community's recommendations. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
61-year-old Noel Manning couldn't believe it when he read notes written by his son Noel about his time in Long Bay Jail. 22 years ago, he was behind bars on a break-and-enter charge in a cell with Ivan Milat. The two men spoke of bodies in the Belanglo forest. Noel Jr. recalled some shocking details.
He more or less stated in one of his statements that you could see the body's been buried 6 inches under the ground, and no one would know they were there. So he knew all this well before even the case came out.
With the nation now talking about the killings, the taking of 7 young lives, from his home near Cessnock, Noel Manning Sr. has come to a horrible conclusion, that his son may have been an accomplice with Milat in the murders.
It's possible, you know. It's a terrible thing to say, but it sort of it makes you wonder, you know, if your son would have sort of got into it. But the way he talked, the way he spoke to people and everything, it's quite possible.
In the Milat court hearing, it was stated that another person must have been involved in the killings. In February this year, Noel Jr. died in his car in Sydney South. The official report was suicide by gassing, but Noel Sr. has serious concerns over the death, suspecting foul play. More details tomorrow night. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
While Shelley's parents flew to Atlanta for the match, Shelley's family and friends were holding the fort and the party at home. With the halftime score locked at 1-1, the atmosphere was subdued. That turned to jubilation when the Hockeyroos goaled. One further goal sealed the match, ensuring a gold medal for the Newcastle player. Shelley's brother over the moon after the win.
Such a high, incredible for her though, what she's done, what she's achieved now, and what she's going to do. It's up to her.
Shelley was also spurred on by some sisterly advice.
About 3 hours beforehand she gave us the ring. She was feeling really good and confident, so we were just like, go for it, go for gold.
The 24-year-old began playing in Newcastle as a 5-year-old. With 3 goals in the Olympic tournament, she's been a linchpin in the Australian side. Shelley is expected to celebrate a gold medal performance with a family in a fortnight. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
In some ways, they're an easy target. There have been some highly publicised cases of alleged mistreatment in private boarding houses, and owners say they're now all being tarred with the same brush. In a bid to get the hysteria into perspective, the Area Health Service's mental health section is compiling a report that looks at every hostel in the region. It's found some mistreatment does occur.
There are a number where they have basically said that they're not happy for us to go in and provide dental care or provide women's health services, or even community nurses to go in and assess incontinent residents, for example.
But manager Sue Farley says horror stories can be found in any industry, and the majority of operators provide the best care they're able to.
There are a number of committed and dedicated operators of boarding houses here in the Hunter who provide exceptional care.
The recent closure of Bergman House at Mayfield showed residents often live in less than luxurious accommodation. But many residents from hostels around the region say they're happy with their housing. You don't think it's horrible, the conditions that you live in there?
No, not at all. It's okay.
Helen, what do you think of your home?
Oh, it's lovely. I like it.
Mental Health Services says the only way of ensuring all hostels operate properly is by regular inspections, but it's difficult to pin down the responsibility for checkups as several government departments oversee the welfare of disabled people. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
It was like a scene from the movie. In the early hours of the morning, the school bus led a convoy of police cars along the Newcastle to Sydney freeway. It's alleged the 20-year-old unlicensed driver had stolen the bus from the Blue Ribbon depot at Maitland. Police noticed him at Mount White, then followed him 65 kilometres to Milperra in Sydney South before the bus ran out of fuel. Along the way, he had rammed 2 police cars and terrified drivers. 2 police officers were injured in the collisions. Amos Mordew of Blue Ribbon Coaches was surprised by the overnight robbery.
We've had occasions where people's broken the place and drove one bus and the other, let fire extinguishers off, and generally vandalism, but never to the extent of this, never.
The thief had even topped up with fuel before he left, leaving the details on a special board. The company will now improve its security. The young driver has been remanded in custody to appear at Bankstown Court on Monday. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Hundreds of people gathered at Clarence Town's main oval today, determined, as they see it, to save their town. The residents, many of them water skiers, say the small community relies on the Williams River for tourism and recreational activities, and fear any move to ban speedboats would see many small businesses wiped out.
Well, it'll be the death knell of Clarence Town. The business people, 2 service stations, the hotel, the butcher, they've all come forward with their facts to show that they will just be destroyed if the skiing fraternity cannot use this place.
Their anger follows a recommendation from the Healthy Rivers Commissioner, Dr Peter Crawford, to close the Williams River north of the Seaham Weir for 2 years. This is to allow the riverbanks to regenerate and avoid any further pollution of the waterway. But the residents say the Commissioner has overreacted and they're working on a compromise plan.
We are going to put up wave curtains funded by the Waterways Authority, and these will be placed in the black spots in this 2 kilometre stretch here, just to protect the banks that we're revegetating.
The group is now preparing to present their submissions to the Commissioner. Emma Theossian, NBN News. Using some of his own works as examples, Charles Jordan showed Year 9 and 12 students some of the ways light and shadow can be used to add depth and colour to a painting. He also explained some of the symbolism and meaning behind his work, offering the hopeful young artist some new inspiration.
I'm trying to show the kids at the school that, you know, that art is a powerful medium for them to sort of express themselves, and that, you know, and that also a powerful opportunity for them to learn about themselves.
And Charles is impressed with the level of creative talent that exists among students in the region.
They've all got plenty, you know, to say about the work, their own interpretations of the images, and if you look at their work as well, they're all using their imaginations very profoundly in their work.